Hello, friends, and welcome. Today we are going to start in child's pose, which is an on the knee pose. Now, that can be really hard for some bodies to start in or just to do in general. You could lay on your back and meet us there. That said, we will be on our knees for just a little bit in the beginning of the practice. So if this is not the practice for you because of sensitivity in your knees or joints today, go ahead and find another practice. There's a whole bunch of 20-minute practices. Do you know I have over 700 videos posted now on Patreon? Wow. Yeah, it was so a couple of things. One, since we are going to be here for a little bit, you might bring in a blanket. If you're like, well, I can kind of do child's pose, but the tops of my feet, my soles of my feet start, my arches particularly start cramping because the tops of my feet, then you're going to make a blanket roll, and you're going to bring a blanket roll underneath your ankles and make that as high as you need to come up to meet the ankles, so that not so much weight is bearing down and the front of the ankle isn't just like stretching open so much, right? And have a block handy just in case. Have your knees wide, your big toes come together to touch. And as you start to lower down, I'd love for you to be able to get the area just above, so between your eyebrows, right? And about an inch above that, something right around there, if even an inch. So that area of the body is the part we want to lie down with just the pressure of the weight of the head. So when I come down, I can't get that. I'm more towards my hairline. So I'm going to either make fist pillows, a fist in a hand, or whatever, rendition of my hands make that. Or you can always bring a block in. I like to bring mine in at an angle, a diagonal, I guess. I don't know what I'd call that. And bring it right underneath that area. Let the elbows go a little wide today and let the hands move towards each other. Now the block's in my way just a little bit, but I can still come towards the block with my hands. And if this is undoable, uncomfortable, right? This is not the most comfortable position for me, but it's manageable. I can be here, right, for a little bit. And then once you find a position that is sustainable for a few minutes, begin to notice if there are parts of the body that feel tense or restricted, or there's contraction in the muscles. Notice if you have throbbing, pulsing, numbness, pain, aches. And each part of the body is usually pretty different. After I've been here and I've been starting to relax, I usually need to move my block or my hands a little forward as my body starts to kind of unwind in this position. So you might find that's a helpful tool for you. Where are you hot? Warm? Is there any part of your body that feels cool or even cold? And just noting all of these, what I'm going to call microclimates of the body. The tips of my fingers usually feel quite different than, say, my armpits or my belly. Come into the breath with the wider leg version, not too wide, right? We want our outer ribs to lay on our inner thighs, so there's a support structure. But we want that belly to have a little bit of freedom between the thighs, so it can be soft, so that when you inhale, the diaphragm has room to move down, right, to pull air in the lungs. And let's try to be here for about 3 more smooth, Steady breaths. And then what you're going to try to do, assuming this is okay with you, is you're going to come on up a little bit with your body. You're going to bring your elbows a little further in. And I want you to take your head in your left kind of cheek jawline in your hands in some capacity, whether that's flat or I like to bring mine together. And then I set my chin down into the crevice between my thumb and my index finger, right? Whatever works for you is just great. And we're not pushing. I want to make that very clear. But what I want you to do is I want you to just leave your chin, your jawline in your hands, and then soften, right, your neck. And if I do that, I'm a little bit more towards my chin, I guess I would say, than towards the back by my ear. And then that back side of my head and jaw gently just move down. Again, I'm not pushing, I'm not shoving, I'm not twisting, I'm not trying to crack my neck. I'm just allowing a softness for a stretch. And then I'm going to really gently start to bring my head back up, engaging my neck muscles. And again, when I come over to the other side, it could be your open hands, but I prefer the rendition where I bring my palms together and I rest a little more towards my chin side of my face into that crevice. And then I start to let go of the weight of my head by letting go of my neck muscles. And breathe. And then come on back to center. If you have a block on your mat, move it off to the side, or actually, let's use it today. I'm changing my mind. You can have it out in front of you. You're going to have the long distance facing the short edge of the mat. You're going to bring your hands on either side. I don't bring it all the way in that crevice I was just working with, right? But I bring my index fingers against the sides of the block, my thumbs against what would be, I would say, the part closest to my face, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use that. I'm going to push the block in with my index fingers, right? And I'm going to push down with my thumbs and push into the block just a little bit with my thumbs. So I kind of pin it between my thumbs and my index fingers, so to speak, and keep pushing down actively. Your forearms gently lift up, right? They become buoyant. Check in with your outer upper arms. That's from a little over a month ago, I believe. We did a really a big breakdown of that area. Now you can bring your forehead to the ground. For some of us, that's a long ways away or just isn't comfortable. So then just find that extension of the neck, right? The crown of the head just gently reaching forward between the thumbs-ish. And that one's not an exact science by any means. And breathe. So we're waking up the shoulder girdle, yeah? Okay. Now, go ahead and remove that block off to the side. You're going to do a similar thing, but just to the right. And we do this a lot, I know, right? But walk over to the right, get about a block's distance between your hands. I want you to imagine it's there. Push. You could use it if you want to. Of course, you can. Push into the block with your thumbs, kind of pin it in with your thumbs and index fingers, pushing both into the block and down into the ground. And then find that length, right, in that left side body. And your left buttocks might have gotten light and become unanchored when you moved over to the right. So can you re-anchor your left buttocks bone and make it just as heavy as the right? And then breathe into whatever you got going on. Come on up through the center. You're going to walk over to the left. And of course, imagine you have the block or use the block, right? You're going to pin in with the index finger and the thumbs. They push into the block, but also pushing them down into the ground, right? Forehead might rest down on the ground or it might just reach gently forward. You can find the right one for you. Reestablish the weight in the right buttocks bone, the anchoring, right? If it got light, maybe it didn't for you, but the majority of us, it does. It just, it's the path of least resistance. It follows where the motion goes. And breathe. Open up that right side of the ribs by breathing more into the right lungs, as if you could anyway. Come on back to center. And let's just rest for just a moment, giving those forearms a break. We'll get out of those knees in just a second. Anyone who's getting done there, yeah?
We're going to take a downward dog, and then we'll come back down to the hands and knees. So now reach your arms out. You can have them a little wider than that block, right? Your shoulder distance. But I want you to imagine that there's a wire block in there. And do the same pushing and pinning both down and into the block. Outer upper arms rotating into the face. Coming up to hands and knees. Curl the toes under. Make your way back into downward dog. Now keep those knees bent for a bit. With your knees bent, just for a moment, go back into that work we just did and reestablish if you lost it. I do every time unless I ask it to stay while I'm going up, right? And then reach that right heel down any amount, keeping your hips pretty still. And bend the right knee. It's not the only way to do it, friends. It's just the way we're doing it today. Reach the left heel down. I would say that's true of anything I teach, right? And bend that knee. Reach the right heel down. And bend that knee. Reach the left heel down. Notice if you want to move a lot faster and try to get more done, and bend the knee. If so, your balance might be to slow down, right? And then reach both heels down any amount, but keep that length of the spine. So I'm going to keep my knees a little bent today because I've got some tightness from doing a big old hike yesterday. Take a breath. That's not you. What's your thing? And bring those knees down. Now this time, we're going to be on hands and knees. So move your hands back. You could still put a blanket roll underneath your ankles, by the way, for any of my friends with the medial arches that get really crampy. I would say, please do. It allows you to be here and do the work without cramping and getting that interference. Find the balance between the two, right? And then find your elongated spine. You know, that's one of my things I talk about all the time. Buttocks, bones back. Crown of the head forward, right? Some of us need to pay a little mind to our solar plexus and our low abdomen, right? Some of us need to find the upper back and where's the neck in response to all of that, right? Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to do opposite limbs lifting on the breath. Inhale, right arm and left leg are going to lift. And exhale and bring it down. And you can flow on the breath a little bit. Yeah. Inhale, left arm and right leg. So now you know the patterns. Now I'm not going to tell you when to breathe, but you're going to try to keep doing that. I'm wondering if you can find the stability of the spine, right? That steady, or stira, we call it in Sanskrit. And then there's the sukha, the ease. Where is your ease? Maybe when you lift the arms, right? There's this sense of flow or fluidity that we worked with last week. Like you're moving like water, yeah? So having those anchor points, those steady parts of the body, and then finding a sense of ease and flow from that. And one more on each side. You don't have to be in my timing by any means. When you've done your left arm and right leg, you are complete. You'll bring them down. Let's go ahead and sit back on the heels, but curl your toes under. So we work with the soles of the feet just a little bit. You can stay a little forward, of course, or you can start to move yourself upright more so, whatever works best for you. Right? And then from there, try to make sure your ankles, they probably want to sickle out, it's called, move out. So hug your outer ankles in, as if you had a strap around them, holding them in place, and come forward. Uncurl your toes, hands and knees, aka tabletop, right? And breathe. Find that elongated spine. Now from there, we're going to do a twisting action. I want you to bring your right hand behind your right head. Inhale, lift the right elbow. Try not to move the hips too much. And exhale, right elbow down towards left shoulder, or left what's it called? It's the wrist. Inhale, right elbow up. And exhale, right elbow towards left wrist. Doesn't have to touch it or anything. Inhale up, keep those shins pushing down the tops of the feet. This time, extend the arm out past that inner left wrist. Reach, 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 reach. And if it's okay with your body, set down, right? Maybe your shoulder, maybe the head, maybe you put a block or a blanket underneath. Now, I don't know about all y'all, but my right foot just popped up off the ground and totally moved to center. My left shin's really not making contact. So reestablish your foundation, your anchors, right? Today, we're going to move the left hand out to the side, kind of like a training wheel, I call it. If you work with me, you should hopefully know that one now, right? And I'm going to push down into the fingers and use that momentum or that muscular action really, and get that left shoulder blade down the back and twist just a little deeper without forcing myself into the twist. This is a really hard lesson I've had to learn through the years. And then go ahead and bring that left hand back by the face-ish, push up. We're in hands and knees. Yeah. You're going to bring that left hand behind the head, trying not to move the spine too much. Inhale the left elbow up. Exhale left elbow towards right wrist. Inhale left elbow up and exhale. Inhale up one more time, and this time you're going to push past or extend past. So extend that left arm out, reach it past the right wrist, set down. Before you do too much with the upper body, hold on. Pay attention to the lower body, right? My left foot went up and into the center. So I'm going to separate everything to hip distance. I'm going to reestablish my foundation, push down. I'm going to bring my right hand out into training wheel mode, and I'm going to push down into that right hand and just really gently let my right shoulder blade help my ribs turn a little more and soften the neck. My neck gets really tense with this one sometimes if I don't remind it. Bring that hand closer to the face, push the floor away. This time, the feet stay uncurled, the toes, and you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna try to sit back. You're either gonna leave the hips a little high, or you're gonna leave the body a little forward, or if it's all right, you come on up. Again, the ankles want to sickle out for the majority of human bodies. So we're just gonna hug the outer ankles in. And this is where those of us with the medial arching, medial arch cramping, oh my gosh, are gonna be like, whoa, right? Go ahead and come on forward. You're gonna take the top of the right foot and bang it into the left arch. I bring my feet off of the floor for this one. Take the top of the left foot and bang out the right arch. Okay. Downward facing dog. Walk your hands a couple of inches forward, pin the block in, push the fingers down to the ground, and make your way back in a downward dog. And I'm curious, right? Bend the knees a little bit, find all the stuff that we've been working with for today's class. And as you start to work those heels down, right? And work the legs a little straighter, whatever that is in your body. I'm just curious if this downward dog feels different than the other. Go ahead and bring the knees down. So again, it's going to be a little bit of a knee heavy on our hands and knees pose, a class. If it's not right for you, come on out. I don't have a ton of modifications for this stuff on the, I'm not to do it, be able to teach both right now. So bring the right foot up a little bit. You're going to keep the knee bent for this one, right? My knee is raised. And then I'm going to push my heel up into the sky and let go of that. I'm going to push my heel up into the sky and soften that. So I got a couple of things I'm going to talk about while you keep doing that, right? You're probably moving over to the left and have a lot of weight moving out to the left side of the hip, the left hip moving out to the left. So keep that left hip in. Check in with the right inner groin. Is it wanting to go out to the side and you're lifting more from the hip than you are from the inner groin? The outer groin's working too, but you want the inner groin to participate, right? And then for me, when I do this, my ribs just, all my energy just flows down to the ground from my solar plexus, right? I have to remind my solar plexus to hold on. And then go ahead and bring that down. So hopefully your right gluteals are like, good morning, woo, or whenever you're doing this video. Bring the left leg up. And again, I have my knee bent, my knee's a little lifted. Doesn't have to be an exact science or a ton of precision. Here's the precision part, right? The heel pushes up and then you come down. The heel pushes up. Don't move too fast, please. Be mindful, right? When you move fast, you're not mindful. You're just not. And then from there, again, I'm going to bring in the same points and pieces. So notice if your inner groin is participating, or if the weight, let's start with the right shifting out, right? Is the right hip popping out to the right? Hug the right hip in and try to keep that stability through the pelvis and the spine. 2, your inner left groin, right? Is it moving up at the same rate as the outer groin? Trying not to lift from the hip, but trying to really isolate in your gluteals. 3, is your solar plexus dropping down to the ground. That's 2 to 3 inches above your navel. Try to keep that gently moving in, because that's the place a lot of us let the energy escape, because it's just easier that way, right? And then go ahead and bring that down. Child's pose, if that is okay with your body. This time, you can bring the block or hands in, but just be curious now that we've been doing this work, maybe you're a little more towards that center between the eyebrows area, right? Even without all of the props, or maybe you don't need quite as many props, etc. Just notice.
And come on up. And now you're going to go ahead and you're going to move onto your buttocks. We're almost done with this sequence, actually. Finally, off the knees for my friends who have sensitive knees, right? You're going to have the hands back behind you. You're going to have the feet wide as what would be the short distance of your mat, right? And then you're just going to let your knees rock back and forth in windshield wiper. And I say your knees, but really we're interested in the movement of the femur bone and the hip socket. It's just easiest to say knees. Go ahead and move your hips back if you need to, if you start rocking too far forward. And then the next time you're moving over to the right, leave your knees over there. Now I want you to notice that my knees are nowhere near the earth, and that is okay. They might come down a little bit as I come up, they might not, but I'm just saying if they're above the earth, you can still do these motions, right? Even without being directly on the earth. So we're gonna bring our body a little further forward, and we're gonna bring the shins into 90 degrees. If you're like, no way, you can always bring the heels in and not have quite as big of a bend, and that might make it more accessible, right? And then from there, I'd like you to take that inner left knee, and whether or not it's on the ground or not, I want you to push it down into an imaginary surface if you don't have the ground there, right? Or if you wanted to work with a blanket or a block, you could bring a block in and you could work with a block. But you don't need to have those props, and you can still get the resistance. It's quite beautiful, actually, right? And then release that pressure. Now take that outer right knee, and again, move it down as if you had a ground down there to push it down into, and breathe. Bring the legs up, bring the legs all the way over to the left. Try to find about approximately 90, unless you need to bring the feet in a little bit because of your hip joints, right? And then you do for your knee joints. And then the inner right knee is gonna push down towards the earth, right? And breathe. And then, all of this stuff is, like I've been saying a lot in the past number of months, like 20-25%. It doesn't have to be 100% situation. Now, release that pressure. Outer left knee pushes down into an imaginary ground surface. Maybe you're on the ground, and good on you. Push into that, right? And breathe. Either way, we're providing resistance. We're all getting the same work, whether we're on the ground or not. It's great. And go ahead and bring those knees back up. Now you got one more. This time when you go over to the right, without moving your body, because that's cheating, and I'll tell you what I mean in a second, we're going to try and push down that inner left knee so much that our left heel picks up. Now I'm going to move my body to show you, I can pick it up if I move my body forward, but that's not the muscles of the hip, right, in this area doing it. If I keep my body up and I push down, my foot is not lifting, but I'm still getting the work even without lifting the foot, right? And maybe someday I do lift it. And bring that up and move over to the right. Left, 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 left. Inner right knee pushing down so much that the heel lifts. And again, you're like, but you're not lifting. You're totally right. My shin, my heel, nothing is lifting, but I'm trying my darndest, and I'm feeling a whole bunch of work in my leg. I could do this and lift the leg, but I'm not working these muscles. And that's what we're trying to teach, right? So we can get more mobility in range of motion in this hip. Bring those knees back up. Go ahead, and you can either sit cross-legged or you can kneel. We're not going to be here for too long. Feel free to sit up on height, right? Forward folding and just swaying a little bit from right to left, just to give a little release in all those muscles we've been asking to turn on in that back body there. Come back up to center for good measure. Let's put the other shin in front. Get nice and tall. And again, a baby fold in and moving right to left. And when you come up, we're going to move into just a little closing. So if you need to switch the position of the legs, please do. Get nice and tall. That elongated spine. Those of you who work with me regularly, by now you probably are, you know some of your, I'll say places where the energy escapes, right? And what I mean by that is I usually flare my ribs out, so I have energy escaping forward out of my solar plexus. If I gently hug that in and I've got my elongated spine, the energy is more likely to move through that area of the spinal column, the superhighway. And my body can choose to send energy forward through the nerves, right, that run through the spine towards anything in my solar plexus without me just bleh, all the energy out of the front of my spine. Bring those palms together in front of the heart. Inhale. Exhale, bow the head. Taking a moment of gratitude. And namaste, friends. Just a quick little lower body odyssey. May you be well, friends.